about how you had to have one of their fans in order to have something that was compatible with the case. I couldn't find any decent 140mm fans on Amazon to put in the front of the case for the hard drive cooler. So I went ahead and got their fan. Here it is. It's got a 62 case flow, or CFM airflow, 26 decibels. The decibels on this one are, let's see, 32 at the highest, the 2000 RPM for the Cooler Master fans. But the RPMs on this are RPMs 1300 RPMs, plus or minus 10%. Air pressure, in case you were wondering about that, is 0.81 mmH squared, or I guess it's squared H2O. That's interesting. Plus or minus 10% on the on this one. Air pressure is 0.40 to 3.90 on the Cooler Master. Right. So it comes with the screws again. That's actually kind of not needed because you already get screws for this in the case. What the hell is that? This is an adapter. A Molex adapter to 2-pin, I guess. And this is a 3-pin. This is actually kind of an interesting thing. It's actually got a sheathed 3-pin connection with this, which is actually kind of cool. Haven't seen that before. That's all that's in that case. So I guess we're on to the motherboard, the true pista de resistance. Pardon my French. If anybody recognizes that epic quote from Tremors. Crap, I forgot to put the screws back in there. Alright, so we get that back in, that over there. Get the... Oh, what's this? Oh, that's right. I forgot I took it off of there. So, more trash. Alright, the big boys. Big boys league here. This is the Sabertooth X79, and before you start saying, what the hell, why didn't you go with the Rampage Extreme for Extreme? That's because this motherboard, while it does not support quad fire in a similar fashion, it does perform better and costs less than the Extreme does, which is actually interesting. It also has a longer warranty, a 5-year warranty, and also is made with military grade parts. So that's a plus. You can open up the flap here. There's no retaining or kind of anything to hold it down. You get all the different information here. You get the Asus SSD caching with it, since there's no native caching with Intel's chipset. USB 3.0 actually boosts the speed on that, so it's faster. You get the proprietary USB BIOS flashback and the auto flashing on the that you get on the other cards. There's a new thing called thermal radar. It's called something else on the Rampage, but it's basically a built-in sensor grid of 12 different temperature sensing diodes, I guess, that are built into the board that the software will go in and read, and you can check out the different temperatures at different spots on the board. Total airflow. They've gotten rid of one of the major drawbacks for the other Sabertooth models, which was that huge thermal armor that actually blocked some, caused some issues with video cards and stuff. They've gotten rid of that and gone with a more direct approach, putting just the thermal armor around the chipset and also on the some of the electrical components near the socket. DigiPlus power control, and the tough certified military grade components. But enough of that. I'm pretty sure you want to see the board itself. It opens up and it comes in its own little kind of case here. Alright. I have not taken it out of this case yet, but I've taken the lid off. We'll go through. I'll let you take a little peek at this first. Just kind of get you a little taster there. There's the socket. Look how huge that thing is. It's a monster compared to the the socket on the one I've been using on the Maximus 2 formula. Let's take a look at what we get with the board first. You get the I/O shield for the back. What is this? SATA cables. Then you get 2 bags of those. You also get the Q connectors and the USB Q connector this is for the front case stuff. I guess more SATA connector. You get 3 bags of SATA connectors. I think there's a difference though. Some of these might be. Yeah, these are 6 Gbps cables. These might only be rated for 3. Or maybe they're just 3, don't have a rating on them at all or anything. And you also get this fan for the I/O shield case that you saw there. And also, I'm not sure why they included it for, but this is an SLI bridge. Asus included an SLI bridge with their motherboard, but not a Crossfire bridge. I think that maybe because NVIDIA might not include them with their cards. I'm not sure. But they get an SLI bridge, so I guess in case you want to, if I ever chose to go to NVIDIA, I could do that. Probably won't ever happen. But just for what the hell is that? Just for the option. Oh, you get a case sticker badge thing here says tough inside, the ultimate force. You even get a certificate of reliability. I guess this is like the warranty card or something. But it kind of goes over the different components that are military grade. It's the capacitors, the chokes, and the MOSFETs. The capacitors, it's actually also talking about the tests that everything went through. They put the capacitors through thermal shock tests. Yes, thermal shock. Yes, a new type of test, but created by Aperture Science. Actually, it kind of sounds like something that GLaDOS would come up with. But thermal shock tests, moisture resistance, salt spray, solderability, solder bath, vibration and mechanical shock tests. The chokes went through vibration and temperature cycling, and the MOSFETs went through thermal shock, vibration test, and mechanical shock. Again, this board has a 5-year warranty. That's 2 years more than most of their other boards. It comes with a notice about RAID mode. And it says, due to Intel IRST driver specification, there are some restrictions on the X79 platform when dealing with AHCI and RAID mode during Windows OS installation. So it goes into talking about, so I guess this is for Windows XP. Oh, here we go, 7 Vista. So it's just talking about you have to load a specific driver before you install Windows in order to have any RAID hard drive configuration supported. Then it also comes with a kind of a RAM guide to tell you where you should be putting RAM in for different configurations. For my specific setup, the RAM's going to be going in A1, B1, D1, and C1. You get the case badge, Asus case badge, and the driver's CD. Installation guide for the new socket, and also the warranty notice. Again, 5-year warranty. So let's get on to the motherboard here. This stuff is kind of annoying though when you're trying to move stuff around because it just clings to everything. Alright, so that's done. Actually, I'll keep this so I can show you where that goes. Alright. So the motherboard just kind of comes out of the case somehow. So let's pull on the bag here. What the hell? Alright, actually we'll turn it over so it's on the top of this. Have a little platform for it here. Alright, so touching metal. What the crap? Okay, there we go. So, here we go. Here is the motherboard. You can see it's got the dual DIMMs here. They're covered over by some stickers here. I've got the thermal armor here. I don't know if you can see it very well or not from how the camera's angled, but I've got the thermal armor here. Maybe we'll modify the tilt here a bit. Alright, so you're right on top of the DIMMs there, okay. So you got the SATA ports here, the thermal shield for the chipset, the socket DIMMs. This board takes a 24-pin and an 8-pin power connector. Some stuff on top of the MOSFETs here. Heat sinks. You've got fan controllers all over the place. You've got one over here, several over here somewhere. I think this one, maybe. You've got two here, two here. I think there's seven or so different fan controllers on this board. USB 3.0 slot there for the front of the case. Let's go over the that doesn't really show up that well. I was hoping it'd show up better. Let's go over the these here. These ports here, SATA ports, are only for SSD caching. You have to have a SSD card and a regular SATA drive attached to these in order for these ports to work at all. I probably won't be using these. These brown ones here are the native 6 gigabit ports, and these are the Marvel SATA 3 gig SATA bit ports. 3 gig SATA ports, not bits. But whatever, you know what I mean. That's the BIOS battery. One thing that this doesn't have, I don't know if you can see it very well here, but right down here, it's the memory OK button right there. If you have a problem with the memory, you just push that button down and it's supposed to fix memory issues on the fly. One thing that you'll notice when you look at this, turn this around real quick here, or that you might have noticed already, is that there's only really 3 PCI slots. So you're wondering, how's this Crossfire X compatible? Well, it's compatible in the way that you use two dual GPU cards for quad fire. Again, there's 2 more fan controllers here. But these 2 ports here are 16 gigabytes PCIe 3.0, I believe. They connect to the socket with 40 channels, I think. It was this one here, this eSATA port. Excuse me, this PCIe port. That is an odd looking SATA port, isn't it? This PCIe port is only 8x8, an X8 port. Well, these are the X16s. I think this is also 3. I'm not sure yet. They also give you a PCI port for whatever kind of cards you're going to be using. Since they have onboard audio, both I think this is optical and analog. I'm not going to be using my X5 card. That's actually going to be going to whoever buys my old computer. So, you got the power light to tell if the motherboard's powered or not. Let's take a look at the I/O here. First thing you're going to notice is this huge ass thing here. If I have some screwdrivers, wherever those are at. What the hell did I do with my screwdrivers? Yes, they're hiding back here. See if I can do this without knocking down the camera. Let's see. Oh, and I already showed you this, but this is the 8-pin extension. I have an array of tools, mainly small screwdriver or flathead, a small Phillips, larger Phillips, and pliers in case I need them for some reason. But first thing you're going to notice is this thing here. This unscrews and opens up a place for that small fan I showed you earlier that I left out over there. This is where that fan goes. It's optional, but I'd highly recommend it just because really with gaming or any kind of intensive computer operations, you want to have as much cooling as possible. So there's a heat sink here. I'm not sure what it's cooling off exactly. Oh, I know what it is. It's the capacitors and stuff for this powered eSATA port. And also probably some of this other stuff here too. So yeah, you just plug this in here, like so. Just drops in there, supposedly. Just drops in there. There's little slots that you have to, or pegs that the screw holes will go into, and then you run the cable down this channel. And this will plug into the black fan port over here. Let's see. Well, that's interesting. It's only 3 in this fan thing, and there's 4. Well, that's basically how that gets connected. So I guess, yeah, just like that. Voila. Then this goes back on top. Somehow, way, shape, or form. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe this is just a cover. You put the screws down in there for that one now. Maybe that's it. Well, obviously, yeah, you don't want to put a fan cover on top of a fan. Duh. God, having so many brain farts today. Yeah, just screws down in there, and you're ready to go. Obviously, we're not kind of into the building part yet, but I just wanted to show you this and get it done now so I wouldn't have to worry about trying to finagle it in there while I'm trying to deal with all the cramped area in the case. Doesn't quite seat 100% correctly, but it's close enough. Got more of that protective covering stuff here. Just gonna take that off of there. And that's really all there is to this motherboard. I'm gonna go ahead and go over to the case now. So that's the last big thing we got sitting up here. First thing I want to say a couple things about this case. First is that it looks awesome as hell. It's really a large case, even though it's smaller than a actual full-size full tower. The front and the top of the case are actually facade pieces. They come off rather easily. The top will come off easily depending on one of the pins. There's a retention pin. Let's go ahead and readjust the camera again here. there is a retention pin. Near the top. Oops, we're going the wrong direction there. Like right around in here near the I/O panel that, on my case at least, had some sort of problem with it, and it's kind of hard to get the top off of that. But before I get into that, I'm going to go ahead and clear off some room here so I can bring that over. Touch some metal. That's just one, when you're building a computer, that's the one thing you want to make sure you do, is just touch metal all of the time. Doesn't matter if you moved around since the last time you picked something up, touch metal. So you'll save yourself a lot of hassle. So you know what, screw it. I'm just going to throw this over there. Let it fall where it does, and we're just going to use this to hold it on it. And I'm going to sit it back here on this table. Alright, we got the processor, hard drive, RAM. Put that back here too. This case is also really nice for cable management. I think that's one of the main features that NZXT wanted to focus on. So there are a lot of nice cable management features in this case. Let's go ahead and bring it over now. Crap. It's not really that heavy compared to other full tower cases. It's about 20 or so pounds. I just brought down my old computer earlier today, and I swear to God the thing has gained another 15-20 pounds on it. Not as heavy as I remember it being, but I want to go real quick over one thing. This color scheme that you see is actually a custom color scheme. You'll only get it if you buy the case from Newegg. That's the only place that they sell this color scheme at. Let's see. Since this case is higher than the... crap. I'm messing up my padding there. Since it's higher than the top of the case, we're going to go ahead and move this chair out of the way. And I'm going to raise you up a bit here. Well, maybe not. Well, I guess I'm not going to raise you up in that fashion. This tripod's already as high as it'll go, so I'll just carry you over here. So, as I control this camera like a drunken sailor, I'll be right back. Alright, so now if you look at the top of the case here, you'll see this right here when I'm focusing in on at the moment. This is a fan controller built in. You can attach, I guess, 5 fans. It says 7 fans, but I'm not really entirely sure. But it's just you slide them to control the fan speed. Over here you have the power button, the reset button. It's not labeled. Power lights, and probably activity light. eSATA port, I'm not sure if it's powered or not. That's the USB 3, USB 2.0, and the microphone and headphone ports. Taking it back down to ground level here and readjusting the angle, we have the front of the case. Now I want to make a note that this closes with a magnet, but the hinges are kind of cheap. It doesn't really matter unless you like really slam the thing open. They're not going to break just opening and closing it like this. Even if you open it a little bit harder than you normally would, it'll still spring back a bit. But anyway, you got your 5 1/4, I think, or maybe 5 1/2 base. I like this system a lot better than my old case. My old case had some convoluted. You had to push it in. You had to put your finger in a little slot, yank on the filter to pull it out, so that you can pull out the entire clip. These, all you have to do is push down on this little clip here, and the whole thing comes out. It's also got a graded or corrugated mesh on it, but there are no air filters for keeping dust out of the case on these as well, so it's a thing to keep in mind. Down here is where the 140 fan goes, and I'll show you that right now. Like I said, the front of the facade pieces come off rather easily. Normally. There we go. There's a handhold on the bottom. Do not try and lift it with this, because you will pull the front off, and the case will go slamming down on your foot. That happened when I took it out of the box. I was trying to lift it. This came off, and wham. And let me tell you, that hurts a little bit. But, yeah, the front comes off. You have that mesh right there for the airflow to come through. You can see the inside of the inside construction of the panel is actually pretty good. High quality plastics. Anyway, here we have the front of the case. The real front of it, the actual frame front of it. Here's where the fan will go. Here's the drive base. These screws were left over from when I was in here earlier, modifying it a bit for the cooler installation. We'll get to that in a second, though. Come on, bastard. Again, the top comes off rather easily. You kind of have to manhandle it a bit. Don't worry about breaking it unless you try to go Hulk Hogan on it and like rip it off. You might snap it in half then, but it's pretty flexible, pretty strong. It's also mirror finish, so fingerprints are going to show up like hell. You just touch it and it's going to be fingerprints all over it. So you're probably going to be cleaning it a lot if you're anal about keeping your case looking like it's new. Which I obviously don't, which we will see from my other case when I bring it up here to show you. On the top, though, again, you can see the wiring and everything for the fan controllers. The fans themselves plug into the 4-pin connectors, but there's a Molex connector that powers everything on here, including the fans. And here's the other wiring and stuff. Up on very top here, you see the two 200mm fan ports. I took that one off. That was here. Originally, the one that's there on the side that you see there was up here on top. I put it on the side because one, it's an LED fan, and you can see it from the side and not the top, and two, it would have interfered with the cooler. So there's also an additional spot for a 120 fan there, and they have, if you see in the bottom there, these things. Those are mesh or actual dust covers for that. But they get in the way of the cooler, so they're not being used. So, let's see. Line it up again here. Move these down. The sides of these cases are kind of interesting because it's kind of on a swing sort of thing. Let's turn around to the back real quick here. If you see, as you can see, it's a make sure we get that entire face here. A bottom-mounted PSU model. I actually like it. Like this actually looks a bit better than what I thought it would. Normally, I originally have thought that the bottom-mounted PSU kind of style was flawed because any heat would go radiating upwards into the case from the PSU. But in this instance, it actually works much better because of how the cable management is done. You got your 120mm fan on the back there, it's venting out. I/O port, 7 PCIe slots, or PCI expansion slots, and again the bottom there for the PSU, and grommets for liquid cooling if you have an external reservoir. It's got thumb screws for the sides of the cases. The middle ones are actually spring loaded, so you just undo them. You loosen them a bit, then you go down and you pull the side panel off. Or rather, swing it out then pull it off. So, now to the business end. And what the hell's going on? Alright. So, push it down and it swings out and comes off. So, I'll go over real quick here with the side panels here. Got the 200 there, and then you also have dual 120s for a cross-cooling effect for the hard drives. The one thing you need to be aware of with the top case fan is that there is a switch for the LEDs, and it's mounted to the back of the case up here on top. There's that little circular bit with the two rectangle holes you saw at the top left hand of the case. This connects in there, and if you're going to move the fan like I did down to the side, you're going to have to disconnect that and find a way to reroute it. I'll set this down here somewhere. Over here. Alright, so we got the inside of the case now. Some extra light here. That didn't show up really well. But as you can see though, like I mentioned earlier, this case has some crazy cable management stuff going on. You've got these divots here for cable ties that you wrap around for the management in the back. There is a really large opening behind the motherboard tray for cables to go behind. You got these grommets here for liquid cooling or for cable management as well. This hard drive tray is removable. There's just 4 screws along the back edge that you take off to remove it. And you also have removable hard drive trays. They're kind of cheesy, just like plastic, and you basically squeeze on them to pull them out. Instead of normalized screws, they have these kind of I guess rivets that will hook into the screw holes for the hard drives to hold them in place. And you also have the ability to bolt on the 2.5 SSD drives. Let's see. Get over here. Touch some metals. I forgot to, but I don't think that really matters. In my nearly 10 years of building cases, I have never lost anything to static damage, even if I didn't touch any metal. But it's still a good thing to do it, so I guess you would put it right here or something. Or I guess right here in the middle, that's where it goes in the middle, over here on the side. Gotta remove these first. These just slide out of little sockets here. Kind of sit better that way. They kind of fit into there and you just slide them out to remove them. And this will mount in there like this, I suppose. Yeah. Just like that. Let's see. It's actually it's pretty good, so you don't have to buy an additional adapter for it. I originally was going to buy an adapter, but then when I learned that you could do it this way, I decided to say screw it. That, and because actually I'm just gonna go ahead and leave that one out. Leave these out of that one. Because it's kind of expensive, and also because here are those meshes from the top of the case. They were up there originally, but I took them off for the H100, and another tray that I had removed earlier and didn't put it back. But in this magical white box is another bag. And this bag, or a couple bags, or one bag, and this bag contains several bags, which contain one of them of what, well, maybe not. Anyway, there are a crap ton of bags in here with all sorts of screws and case speaker and zip ties, all these different screws for different mounting purposes. I never use the case speakers though, because I hate it when they start screeching when you have the case open. It's all like, because it's like telling you that the case is open. It's like beep. It's really frigging annoying. Now these you will not need to use if you're doing a push or pull only configuration for your water cooler. If you do a push-pull configuration, you're probably going to need these, or if you have the fans installed. Well, no, this is if you have the 200mm fans up there installed. You need these brackets to clear the fans, so you can put them on there. Put the cooler up on there. But you don't need this if you're not going to use the fans like I'm doing. So, but they added that in case you would need it. They've got all sorts of different screws. For all really different types of stuff, really. Thumb screws, not really sure. Maybe these are replacements for the back. You got screws here for these grates. The toolless PCIe ports on my case are kind of cheap. I don't really like them that much because they're really hard to work with. They're toolless though. Another thing I want to mention is I've already taken them off, but the fan that's towards the front of the case on top has these little kind of rivet plastic things holding it in. And in order to remove these, what you have to do is you have to push up from the bottom to push these little pins up, and then you can remove the I caught it. You can remove the retention bits after you do that. But you have to do that in order to remove the fan, and they just snap back down in once you get them off of there. I've got these toolless things for the optical drives. They basically are flexible plastic, rubberized plastic. You just bend them out, slip the drive in, then attach it. You can also take those out and mount the drives with, or actually no, even when you have these though, the drives are still going to be kind of wobbly, so you also have to have screws to secure the optical drives from moving around. That's not needed on the bottom though. Let me go ahead and put all this stuff back in the box here. Not even going to bother with a bigger bag this time. And then I'll show you the opposite side of the motherboard tray. The motherboard tray is not removable on this one. On my old case it was, and that was kind of like a godsend for getting the motherboard on there. But this one isn't. and I'm used to working with trays that aren't, so it's not that big of a deal for me. All right, let's see. Get this thing flipped around. Let's go ahead and remove the back panel real quick here. This is another mesh here for the exit flow from the dual 120s on the other side. And now see the back side here, the genius of the cable management system that they have. They already have some examples of how the management works already done here for you with the fan controller and front I/O cables. They kind of show you how they have it done here. Basically just route it through and then tie it over with the cable ties. This was originally up here, but I undid it so I could remove the fan from here and stick it on the side. But there's maybe about half an inch of clearance behind the motherboard panel and this side of the case, so there's plenty of room to run cables through. I really like this setup. It looks really good, and some of the builds I've seen with this case are really clean looking. If you look, what you'll see in my case coming up here in a little bit is a cable management nightmare, really. But that's really the NZXT Phantom case. This is the full tower version. They also have a 410, which is a mid tower, but this is the full tower version. I'm just going to go ahead and put this on the ground, and it is light as hell. This is the Thermaltake Armor Plus case. As you can see, it's really dusty, and you can actually kind of see some of the cable management stuff in there and how bad it looks. But it's this case. I've had this computer for 3 years, and it's worked pretty much flawlessly during that time. Just in the last couple months, the video card has started to really crap out on me, which is what prompted this build. Similarly to the Phantom, it has a spring-loaded thumb screw in the back that holds the case on. This one you don't have to undo though. You just push down and it pops off. You got a 230mm fan on the side of the case here, blowing air into the case. And here you go, dust and everything. And like I was mentioning, you got it's a cable management nightmare, really. I've got blacklight cathodes on the top and bottom. All the fans in this case are LED fans. This is a blue fan. There's a blue fan here for the hard drives, and there's also a red in the back for the outflow. And this is my X3 1000 watt or 1 kilowatt power supply, which I'm going to be transplanting into my new case. So what you're going to be getting when you buy this case is you're going to be getting the fans in here, the water cooler. It's a Thermaltake Big Water 760 IS. You're also going to be getting two 4/5 full jugs of 1000cc coolant for this. You'll be getting a 200 gigabyte hard drive. It's an IDE hard drive. I'm just going to go ahead and sell it because I can't use it on my new motherboard. There's no IDE connection for it. It's old. It's really old. It's 7 years old, but it's in perfect condition. I ran it through check disk last night, and there's no problems with it. And HDD Sentinel, which is a HD monitoring program, lists it as having 100% performance and 100% health, which means there's no weak sectors or bad sectors on it. That's the only drive we're going to get with it, though, is that drive. Also going to give you my video card, which is pretty much useless now. You'll probably have to replace it, but you can see that I had the X2. It's a monster of a card. You also get my X5 card. Of course, the motherboard, which is a Asus Maximus Formula 2, and the RAM, which is, I actually had to look this up. I've been misstating what my RAM is. I had not realized, or I'd forgotten what kind of RAM I had bought. But it's actually, I think, 800 megahertz RAM that's overclocked to either somewhere around 900 or 1066. But it's 4 sticks of 1 gigabyte RAM, so it's 4 gigs total. The processor is a Q6600, an Intel quad core. Right now in the BIOS it's overclocked to 3.2 gigahertz. The stock speed though is 2.4. What else would you be getting? I'm gonna bleed the system out later than. But that's basically the case here, and the computer. I'll go a bit over it a bit more when I get back from a break. The case is fairly heavy. I would clock it in at around 50 to 60 pounds total. Maybe a lot lighter though once I take out like the PSU and drives. So it'll probably only come out to around maybe 49.50. That's still a lot. That's gonna cost a bit for shipping. But the overall base price of this, minus the shipping, I would say, since the video card is, I think, pretty much done now, maybe it's salvageable for something, for some applications, but for gaming, I think it's done. I'm gonna go ahead and drop the price down to 400 for the maximum highest price I'll charge. I'm not still quite sold on what price I'm going to give. That's minus the shipping and handling. With shipping and handling, it's probably going to be around 425 to 460. I'm not entirely sure how much it's going to cost to ship this behemoth. But if you're interested, just let me know through an email or on YouTube or something, and we can talk about the price. I will sell for the best offer if I can't get the price that I'm looking for. That would be the base price, not including the shipping and handling. Yeah, there is some cable management kind of stuff with this board. There are some holes in the bottom where you can stick stuff through. But just because it's a top-loaded case, and plus because of this, that's not really possible. And I wanted to go over something real quick with the water cooler. If you, well, you can't see it from right there, but the front of it kind of sticks out the front a bit, maybe half an inch, and that's because the water block, the radiator, doesn't really fit entirely into the case. Plus, any further back and you wouldn't be able to access the opening at the top to refill the radiator. I'll just show you that real quick here. Right up here at top, that's where you refill it at. It's the reservoir, and it goes through the radiator there. This fan has a control down in here somewhere, so you can adjust and you can see how friggin' dusty the case is. but that controls the fan speed. This is also a LED fan. It's a blue LED fan. Kind of see the front here real quick. So it sticks out like that. There's actually a little gouge on the reservoir. You can't really see it from up here, but if you pull out this little fin right here, I don't know if you can see it or not, right there, that fin kind of cuts into the radiator a little bit. It doesn't really matter. It's just an aesthetic thing, but just kind of going over what the different stuff is. What the hell? All right. The PSU uh, thing up here is actually a customizable thing. It has different lengths for different sizes of PSUs. I think this last notch here is for a 1600 watt. And then this is, for your normal average sized power supplies. And then of course for the 1K. It's got the toolless drive installers, and I like these drive bays a lot better because you push, like on the other ones, the front bays for the 5.5s on the Phantom. This, you just push in a button, you swing it forward, and you pull it out. I think this middle one doesn't have anything in it, like that. And here's the drive cage, has screw holes for mounting it. These drive cages are not, I don't think, 2.5 compatible. They might be though. Let me see. Let's get my CC out here. Damn it, come on. Actually, no, they're not. You could, in theory, if you wanted to do it with just one hole, but they're not made for 2.5s. So you'd have to get a bracket or something. Let's see. There are some other accessories that came with the case, like what the hell? There we go. The front fins for this, which are over here. I had to remove them for when I was installing them, but these are fins that go on the front. They have retractable hinges on the bottom, I think. Or actually on both the bottom and the top. You just basically pull them down. Okay, that's it. Because you push down on the tab here, and you can slide them out to reinstall them. You're kind of not even looking at the right spot. There we go. So yeah, they go in here like this, and then they'll snap into place. But then you can just push down on that thing right there, clasp, and it'll allow them to come out. And they go on the front around this section here. Here's an example of one of the bottles of coolant that I'll be sending with the computer. 1000 cc's. This should last you 6 months. Probably longer if you're in cooler areas. Here in Arizona, one of these lasts 6 months. When you keep up with the evaporation, and this coolant does evaporate, so you'll have to refill it regularly. If you fill it up to the top, the amount of coolant in the radiator should last. Actually, this lasted way more than 6 months. This lasted, I think, 1.5 to 2.5 years, or maybe 2 years. But the radiator should, before it gets too low to the dangerous levels, if you fill it up to the top, it should last, I'm gonna say 1.5 months, maybe. I haven't really ever timed it. But all that aside, and there's gonna be 2 of these that are pretty much full. I just have this one down here, so I'm gonna use it to drain the radiator into. That aside, though, I'm gonna go ahead and show you some more features of this case. I guess I'll turn the. And this thing is heavy. I think I mentioned that before. It is heavy as hell. So, kind of move you back here and adjust the tilt a little bit. Let's get the side action going too. So as you can see here, we have the spot for the that's dusty as hell. PSU, the output, the output fan. You also have the ability to lock the case. So like if you take it to a LAN party, there's a lock on the side panel here that you can use to lock this from going up and down. You see it right there. That has a locking mechanism here, a really kind of cheap one, that will come down and keep the bar from raising up on the inside, which unlocks the side panel. It also has a thumb screw for the, like I said, the thumb screw for the thing here, but it also has two more thumb screws there. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You have 10 PCI expansion slots. And then, of course, you're getting the Asus Maximus 2 formula board along with that. It doesn't have any onboard audio or video. It has dual Ethernet ports. On the back you get 6 USB 2.0 ports and also a PS2 for older keyboards and mice. You get the BIOS reset there. You have an eSATA port and a FireWire port. Both of those are unpowered though. That's pretty much all there is to the case. Oh, and this too. This shares the handle to pull the motherboard tray out. This whole area will come out with it. You'll have to unhook this screw, this one, and this one, and this one in order to pull the tray out, along with I think the case screws, or maybe not. Yeah, so just these two on both sides, and that'll allow you to pull this whole area out to give you easier access to it. The case is really dusty. I may or may not clean it out before I ship it. But for the most part, this board and RAM and CPU have run pretty well. I've had it on pretty much 24/7 for the past 3 years now. Everything still works pretty much like new. The only thing that doesn't is the video card. Like I've been stating, it's on its last legs there. The the heatsink block for the water cooler has Arctic Silver 5 on the bottom. The video card, if it was working, or if it's salvageable, also has AS5 on both of the heatsink fins or fin blocks on the inside. I've actually taken this card apart a couple times to clean it out, and I also put AS5 on it. That's pretty much the tour of the case and what's inside of it. I'm going to go ahead and remove the PSU now. Now that I've finally got the PSU out, you will be about to kind of see what it comes with. I've had this for a good 3 years now, and I have it under good authority that this PSU will last for a very long time because of the quality of the parts. This is the Ultra X3. It says 800 watt, but it's really 1,000. That is interesting. It does say 800 watts. Could have sworn that this was the 1000 model. Well, whatever. It's one of the X3s. Huh. Well, I guess that's what happens when you don't look inside your case for a hell of a long time. You forget what is actually in there. This should be more than enough, though. Hopefully. I'm just gonna go check there, and there's a website that has a PSU calculator where you can actually calculate out the watts that a computer will use in general. And I'm hoping that extreme.outervision.com/PSU calculator lite.jsp. That's the link in case anybody's interested in it. But you put in all the different settings, and it tells you what gives a recommendation as to how large of a CPU you need. 3930K. Well, that's interesting. So, RAM 4 sticks, DDR3. Video, AMD, video card 1, Radeon HD, 40, 7970. Video card, just processing it, none of those. So, hard drives, we've got, let's see, SATA, regular, I think I've got 3 drives. Yeah, 3, plus an SSD. I think it's a DRAM. Let's see. Solid state jelly shock resistant. Well, it doesn't actually say if it's DRAM or flash. I will assume DRAM though, just because of a suspicion. Oh, and in the case, I decided to also give you my old DVD-RW, or CD-RW, DVD plus minus R combo drive. It doesn't always read DVDs, but it will read CDs. That's kind of hit or miss with the DVDs. So if you're going to install a new operating system onto a hard drive, an operating system onto the hard drive, that's included. You're going to probably need to get a proper optical drive. Let's see, combo. Want a combo drive? Where is that at? There it is. One drive. Let's see. Onboard sounds, don't worry about that. No PCI cards, USB. So 3 drives. Keyboard, mouse, this headset. What else would I use? Let's see, iPod, and I think that's 7 USB devices any one time. Fans. Well, let's see. I guess we have to check fan controller. No cold cathodes this time. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 120mm fans, regular. We've got a 140 regular, and we've got, actually no, we have to go with 5 because we have the 2 for the cooler, and then the LED 200, which is not listed here. There's no 200mm, interesting. So let's go 250 with 1. Let's see, cooler, what is it? Cooling kit, it's going to be the Corsair H100. Capacitor aging, let's say 25. Alright, let's see what we get. Calculate. So, 664. So that gives me what does it say, 800? So, 664, that gives me 146 watts. No, 136 watts of extra room. It's not as much as I would have hoped. I would like to have the 400, but maybe I won't have to overclock the CPU. Or if I do, maybe I won't have to overclock it that high. Either way, it should be fine. Could have sworn I had the 1K model though. That's kind of irksome. So, as you can see, it's fully modular. Show you here. It's got, what is that, 6 Molex connectors, 4 pin, 2 6 pins, and 4 6 pins, 1 4 pin, and an 8 pin, as well as another 2 Molex down here, and then the 24. Or actually, that's SATA, not Molex. So, one of these is actually an 6 pin to 8 pin adapter for the motherboard. I think that's the one I just showed you. Or no, that's the one for the video cards, the 6 to 8. Then you get the 8 pin here for the motherboard. But while dusty, it has been really good. There's a website, I forget what the name of it is now, but that this got reviewed on a really thorough review where they actually went inside of the PSU and, excuse me, gonna blow this out in a second. Saw a huge ass clump of dust in there. It's gonna try and blow it off. But they went inside the internal and checked the internals out, and the guy who is a very I won't say highly rated, but respected reviewer said that this power supply was not very, it's really rock solid. With high quality parts. It's basically based on a server PSU architecture. So it's built to take a lot of heat and run for long periods of time. And in the 3 years I've had it running, again almost 24/7, I haven't had any problems with it at all, really. It's pretty stable. So I'm going to go ahead and get some of the stuff cleared off so we can begin building the new computer.